Hi, I'm Anne, and that's the Rovyvon A8. Hi everybody, my name is Anne, and this is the Rovyvon A8. It is the Swiss Army knife of flashlights, and rather than giving you a review, really, I'm going to talk about ways in which you can use this Swiss Army knife of flashlights and get a lot of function out of something that is really small and portable. And that is kind of really what a Swiss Army knife is, right? It doesn't replace all the tools in your toolbox, but it does give you an opportunity to accomplish tasks without going to that toolbox that you otherwise would have had a really tough time doing. My thesis really is that the Rovyvon A8 will replace virtually every light source in your life if you really need it to, okay? It's not like the ideal of anything except, well, it might be the ideal keychain flashlight. But other than that, it's not the ideal of any of these things I'm going to mention, but in a pinch, it can be put into service in this situation. Now, there are only 3 areas where I don't think this does a great job. And I'm going to start with those because I want you to get an idea of how broad I'm talking when I say this can replace like every light source in your life. First, it doesn't do a great job with candles. 4 clicks does give you 4 clicks done correctly will give you this side light. And the side light is warm. It is a very nice kind of tone of light, I guess I'd say. And if you put it into a candle that has already burnt down so that there's like a hole in the middle, it does kind of make everything glow. It sort of works in that setting, but the light quality is just not that right. It has no flicker to it. So it doesn't really replace a candle like for a romantic dinner, for example. Next, when I asked my husband, what kind of things would you ever use a light for in your life? For some reason, the first thing he said was a weapon-mounted light. Okay, the Rovyvon A8 is probably not a great weapon-mounted light. I actually did take out a firearm and try it. You know, with the magnet, it sticks to it. You can find some place where it would be reasonable. I'm sure there's some situation that someone could come up with where magneting this flashlight onto their firearm would be the most effective thing, but I just didn't think that was a great idea, and I'm pretty sure that if you actually had to fire the weapon, that the recoil would cause this to fall off. So I don't think that that's a great idea, although, again, maybe theoretically possible. And the third place this does not work is if you need 2 lights, because this does so many things. There are so many times when you actually might wish you had 2 or 4 of these that it wouldn't by itself be able to accomplish all those functions. I started off the video by showing you a picture of my dog, or one of my dogs, running around with a red light. What I did is this is just 3 clicks here, and a 4th click will get you the red light. Oh, I think I actually used the 5th click to make it blink. And I put this clip right over her collar. I just clipped it right onto her collar. She could run around with the light on. I can see her outside. That's the dog that tends to go off and wander and get a little bit lost. This is also useful, of course, for dog walking, just as an actual flashlight. Likewise, that blinking function can be put on you somewhere, on your belt or your backpack or anywhere else, and give drivers around you an idea that you're there. This is a pretty functional tool for dogs in general. We use it to look in their ears if there's something going on there. But, you know, a lot of those things are just general things that a flashlight can do. Let's talk about some uses around the house. In a minute, I'm going to talk about using it during a power outage, but let's talk about how it pairs with a Swiss Army knife. Now, this is really incredible to me, and for today's demonstration, I'm going to be using this. This is an EvoGrip S18 by Victorinox. An absolutely fantastic knife, which I will be talking about in an upcoming video. But what I want to point out here is that Swiss Army knives are, well, you can stick magnets to them. They're not magnetic. In this case, we'll use this saw for an example, but this works on many tools, and in fact, on smaller Swiss Army knives, you can even stick it onto the can opener or the cap lifter if necessary. But what I've done here is by taking the side light function and turning that on, I needed a reading light. I have a table next to my chair that is a little bit taller. So by sticking this on this way with the reading light, I can set this on the table and it stays balanced. The light then shines down to my book here, and I can read with no problems. This was a really fantastic find for me and set me on to realize something else as well. I'll use this saw again for this demonstration. What if I'm working in a place that doesn't have a lot of light and I need to point this in a particular direction? So by turning the light on, I can stick it now, say, to the side of the saw and point it wherever I need it to go. I can move the saw itself and have it stuck like this. I can turn it sideways. I can rotate it a little bit this direction or that direction, and I can get the light to point exactly where I want it to. And that is actually a really nice function if you're working by yourself and you're working, say, it seems like my husband is always working on like the electrical panel. So the power's out because he's working on that, but at the same time, he needs some light source. And while I do make an excellent, holder of flashlights for situations like these, if by chance I weren't around, he could benefit from that. Now, of course, a lot of times in that scenario, what he's going to do is actually use a headlamp. And of course, you can use this as a headlamp by simply putting it on your hat. If you're wearing a hat with a brim, you can slide this right on there. And that's well known. But what if you aren't wearing that? Well, here I've got a headband, and this actually works really well on a headband as well. And I advocate this also for people that are going outside to run, and maybe it's a little darker than they expected, so they don't have their usual light with them, and they don't want to carry the flashlight in their hand. Here you go. You can put it like this, and if I put it on my head, it's going to mess up my hair a little bit, so I'm not going to do that today, but it does actually stay in place very nicely. And then by adjusting the position of the headband on your head, you can get the light to point different directions. That may be something that's a little more appropriate for women, but nonetheless, I offer it to my let's see, what is it, 1.4% female audience who might want to see that, or men that wear headbands. Let's move on to talking about how it can be useful in the house in case of a power outage. Now, I went and I recorded a bunch of different video about this, so I'm going to play those now. By attaching the flashlights to the top of the light fixture in my kitchen, I'm able to provide enough light to the kitchen to be able to do anything I need to do. I'm not going to show you the rest of the kitchen though, because it's messy. I'm using this side light function right here. I've had this ancient lamp from IKEA for a really long time, and actually if I attach the Rovyvon A8 to the side of the metal pole that goes up the middle, this light functions almost as originally intended. It's providing nice light for the room. Here I have a light with a metal shade, and I've got the flashlight on. It's pointing up towards the top of the metal shade, which is white in color on the inside, and it actually is providing light to everything below it. Now, this is only on the second setting, so this would last quite a while and is actually making the light almost function as intended. If you want to light a room but don't have a light fixture to stick the Rovyvon A8 onto, this is what I've come up with. I'm using the side light function, but I balanced it on top of the door. The reason I did that is to keep the light itself above the level of everybody's eye line in the room. Because if it's below that, then it really feels like the light is shining right in your eyes. But with this, it gives good reflected light from the ceiling. The room is lit up well enough to do anything except maybe read. And finally, here's another example of the Rovyvon A8 being used as the light in the lamp next to where I record all of my videos. This one looks a little weird, but is very practical. I've attached the flashlight onto the neck of my t-shirt here, which then causes it to hang down a little bit. By using the soft side light, I'm able to give myself plenty of light to be able to read, even on the lower setting. I'm one of those cheap people that bought a laptop that doesn't have any lights on the keys, so I can't see what I'm typing if I'm typing in the dark. Enter the Rovyvon A8. 4 clicks puts us on this brightness setting, and actually if I turn it to the second brightness setting and turn it to face the corner, I can pretty much see all my keys. But if that is not enough, turning it back to the lowest setting and turning it out this way really lets me see everything that I'm typing on, and the light, in spite of how it looks on here, is really not too distracting. A very dim light is frequently also advocated as useful if you're in a room where other people are sleeping, but you need to be able to see what's going on. And one complaint people have about the Rovyvon Aurora A8 is that it really does not go on. There's no easy way to get it to go directly to the dimmest light setting, which you would want in that scenario. Well, I'll show you how to do it. So put it against something. I'm using my hand for this demonstration, but usually in real life I use my leg for some reason. Double click to get it onto the on setting, and you can kind of see both on my hand and also when it's dark you can see right through the plastic side there how bright it is. Clicking will set it to the different settings. Ooh, that's hot. And then I can see when it gets to the lowest setting, and then that's when I'm going to be able to use this to navigate around a room without causing people any difficulties. One thing literally I've not seen anywhere, people talk about the UV light being useless. it is not useless, okay? So it is useful for certain scenarios when you would be looking, like if you're in a hotel room and you want to look for body fluids, or if you need to look at currency that has some kind of UV light associated thing in it. I've never done anything like that, but this is where it's really useful in the household. And I'm sorry, this is going to be a little yucky, but do you think your bathroom is clean? Turn off the lights, take this UV light in there, and find out where you actually need to be cleaning. I talked a second ago about how you can attach the flashlight onto a headband or onto the brim of your hat, especially a baseball cap, in order to make a headlight. You could also attach it directly onto your jacket. If you have a jacket with a hood and the hood is thin enough, it will attach there too, but it tends to flop around a little. I didn't find that to be super useful. When wearing a jacket, I actually found it better to put it onto a sleeve, especially if that sleeve has a Velcro tightener on there, because then by tightening it onto your arm, it doesn't flop around as much. What about in the summer if you're not wearing a jacket? Well, I've got a solution for that right here. I've got 2 hair ties, which are, something half of the population probably has a decent amount of. And by putting it on like this, again, the light will point wherever my arm is pointing. It makes you feel like a superhero with the superpower of lighting up whatever you point your arm at. It actually does work pretty well. It's a little annoying because you don't get to see what you look at. You get to see what your arm points at, but still, it's a pretty useful option. The Rovyvon A8 has a variety of uses around the car as well. If you need some light in your car, but the interior light is broken, a lot of cars have some metal up here along the window. And that's where I've attached the Rovyvon A8 here, right along the window there. And it's providing plenty of light to me in the driver's seat. Here's the Rovyvon A8 on the second setting, looking into my vehicle. It's actually plenty of light to work by. On that note, I want to talk about 2 things you should absolutely not do with the Rovyvon A8. I've got videos of me doing them, which just makes me look like an idiot. I'm going to say, first of all, my dog was not hurt in the second video, although I did lose the magnetic tail cap that's supposed to be here. And B, for the first video, just never do this. When I did it, I was on a road that had no traffic on it, and I had everything secured, so it was safe for me to do it in that situation. However, to actually do this in the real world, I would have to have absolutely no ability to do this any other way than what I'm talking about here. You'll see. This is literally a terrible idea, but you can actually replace the headlights on your car with the Rovyvon A8 with the third setting. I mean, this is a really bad and unsafe idea, but if you really had to do this, you could. Well, I'm absolutely sure that this is a bad idea. I took the light and I attached it to a dog toy, and we're gonna play fetch with it. All right, Finn, come back here, buds. Finny, come here. Good boy. Oust. There are a couple things about carrying the Rovyvon A8 that haven't been well discussed. So first of all, although everybody says this is a multifunction pocket clip, I'm going to show you why that matters. So you can flip it around so you're carrying it the other direction. But really, when I carry it this way, I like to move it up all the way to the top. And here I've got some jeans, and in the 5th pocket or any pocket, even with the rolled over jean part, this does fit in well. And in fact, it pushes down really far if you adjust the pocket clip there like I showed you. Now this next one is kind of a reason to consider carrying this with a Swiss Army knife or with another magnetic knife. And this is actually, I think, the perfect choice to look at this. So everything is magnetic and these stick together. People are spending money on pocket organizers, and if your pocket is reasonably flat, these items will stay together. They just aren't going to come off super easy, and if they do, it'll bounce right back into this. So this really functions like a pocket organizer for 2 items without adding any bulk or weight or anything at all to your pocket. Likewise, especially if you don't want to use this magnetic side piece here, you can use the Rovyvon A8 as a lanyard for your knife. I know that's going to sound a little weird. Here, I'm going to stick these together, but you can hook these 2 together. In fact, let me just do it to show you. It is a bit of a it's a bit of a strange appearance, I think, but functionally it works very well. A lot of people have, like I have on my Swiss Army knife, a lanyard that's like mostly decorative, but this one, not decorative and extremely functional. However you're carrying your Swiss Army knife, you can carry this attached. And may I add that when you are carrying this attached to something, whether it's your keys or your wallet or your Swiss Army knife, that actually gives it the feel of being like a larger flashlight. So you have more stability of it feeling, it feels more stable in your hand. And now finally, my friends, I wanted to show you the difference between the Rovyvon A8 version 3 and version 4. So the difference is right here in the buttons. This button on the version 3 is small. It works fine, but if you actually look at it from the side, you can see that it sticks out a little. And here's the box from the generation 4, and you can see just by pressing it on something flat, you can activate it. Now, this button is larger, but it is recessed kind of within this ring, and if I try to press it on something, I cannot activate it. So this is definitely a better button. And likewise, this button I cannot find by feel when I'm wearing work gloves, especially in the winter. This one, on the other hand, is not really a very big problem. Now I want to use this opportunity to illustrate, oh, here I've got magnets getting stuck to everything. I wanted to use this opportunity to illustrate the two different key rings that come with this. This is a nice thick one, and it comes along with this. Both of these key rings come when you get a Rovyvon Aurora A8. I chose to put the big one on my new one, but that's pretty good. I did want to show you though that there is a magnetic tail cap, which I did not have on here, and this is a problem of not attaching it. So now I'm going to attach the magnetic tail cap, assuming it fits on the version 3, and you'll see this just stays there. When you try to shake it, the key ring stays there and it bounces right back. So that is more of a prominent feature when you're dealing with the smaller key ring. The bigger key ring itself doesn't make as annoying of a flopping problem, but nonetheless, it's kind of a good thing to be aware of. There's more purposes than just making the back of your flashlight magnetic to this magnetic tail cap. And it does just push on. Like I mentioned earlier, I did lose my original one by playing with the dogs too much with it. So I definitely advise making sure you've got it on there good. I'll take another look at this after the video to make sure it's on well. Anyway, thank you so much for joining me. I hope you found some things you can do with this flashlight that you hadn't considered before. Have a great day.